I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
Welcome back to the Miami Independent. We have with us a guest today who really needs no introduction. Roger Stone has endorsed Chris Gleason, who is a friend of the show, for the Secretary of Election position in Pinellas. Roger, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
I'm delighted to be here, and I'm delighted to speak up for Chris Gleason. Chris and I become very good friends. Ironically, he has been a real spiritual advisor to me in my faith walk. I've learned a lot about Jesus Christ and the Bible and about faith from Chris. But his work is really incredible. I mean, he's a pioneer. His knowledge of the internet and how to search and research things in places where no one else looks or no one has looked is really extraordinary. And I don't think he gets enough credit, to be honest with you. I mean, Governor DeSantis would have us to believe that Florida is the gold standard of clean elections. That's very sadly just not true. And Chris Gleason has proved it time and time and time again. So I'm really honored to endorse him for the Pinellas County Supervisor of the Board of Elections job. I think he will do an excellent job, and people in Pinellas would be able to be confident that their elections are clean, fair, honest, and totally transparent.
Well, obviously, the Florida RPOF and the DeSantis leadership really don't want that to happen. And I guess Julie Marcus, who's his opponent, there's emails being sent out to people who didn't request mail-in ballots that are supposedly going to get them anyway. I mean, do you think Chris can get a clean election, I guess, is the question.
Well, it's a broader question. That can Donald Trump get a clean election in Florida? As you know, the chairman or the supervisors of the boards of elections, when there are vacancy, they're appointed by the governor. And I hate to say it, but the two-party machine in Florida doesn't have any particular interest in cleaner, more honest elections. In fact, the legislative Republicans and Governor DeSantis passed a set of election reforms that are not reforms at all. They make the system more opaque. They make it far more difficult for the average citizen to get access to information. They make it virtually impossible for the average citizen to file a complaint. It's politicians protecting politicians is really what it is. So it remains to be seen. I was very disappointed that Anna Paulina Luna, the congresswoman, has endorsed a candidate who Chris is opposing. There's a long record of election fraud in Pinellas County. If you don't believe me, Chris Gleason can prove it to you. It's precisely why we need people like him in office. The other thing that I think right now, at this exact moment, that is vitally important is the fact that we're told that $310 million has poured into Kamala Harris's campaign through Act Blue. Now, thanks to Chris Gleason and his early work, we know that Act Blue is really a portal for which money is laundered. In other words, credit cards are used to make multiple small and medium-sized donations in the name of people who didn't send the money. In many cases, people who don't have the financial wherewithal to have possibly made the enormous cumulative contributions that the FEC reports of these candidates would indicate they gave. So putting it another way, Chris Gleason proved that millions of dollars was being money laundered into the campaigns of Val Demings, the congresswoman who challenged Marco Rubio, Adam Schiff, another recipient of this laundered money. There are Letitia James, the attorney general in New York, yet another who received hundreds of thousands of dollars in fake money laundered contributions. We call these donors Smurfs. I think Chris Gleason coined the term. So right now, as part of the PSYOP, in which they're trying to convince us that Kamala Harris is wildly popular, highly intelligent, and she's taken in $310 million in campaign contributions, I think all three of those things are false. But Chris Gleason was really a pioneer in proving this massive money laundering scheme.
So you're absolutely correct. We've had Chris on for probably a year now and dozens of times talking about the blank ballot issue, the smurfing issue, all of this, which we have documented, and not just in the names you mentioned, but Brian Kemp in Georgia. I mean, Raphael Warnock. I mean, the smurfing is really literally nationwide for the call them the matrix candidates on both sides of the aisle. But what interests me is that Conservative Inc., if you will, really doesn't have an interest in talking about this election fraud. And I find that fascinating. What say you?
Well, the problem here is, look, I have great sentimental attachment to the Republican Party, as the party of Lincoln, the party of Eisenhower, the party of Goldwater, Reagan, Nixon. I mean, my political heroes. But make no mistake about it, that both major parties became captive of a ruling elite, of a globalist clique, which is why they hate Donald Trump so much. He came out of nowhere and he disrupted this cozy relationship that the two parties have, in which they both engage in election fraud. They both engage in campaign finance fraud. And because the Federal Election Commission is tied with 3 Republican commissioners and 3 Democrat commissioners, no complaint there will ever be finally adjudicated. People can break the law with impunity, knowing that they'll never be held responsible. Here's the answer in Florida. We need to elect an attorney general in the next election for that office who will begin prosecuting individual supervisors of the boards of elections. If you want a list, go to the State Association of Supervisors of Boards of Elections, which I know sounds to you like a governmental body, but it's a private trade association, and you have the target list. So yes, the supervisor there in Lake County, I'm talking about you, pal, we're coming for you. And the attorney general will have a subpoena power. We can bring the supervisor in front of a grand jury. They won't be able to hide those records. There is no other way to clean this up, but by doing so perfectly legally. Ashley the Mouse, our current attorney general, who literally can't find her ass with both hands, is not going to do this. In fact, she's not going to do anything without checking with Ron DeSantis. She can't even burp without checking with Ron DeSantis. So she's got to go. And we need a new attorney general, someone who's really committed to the rule of law. That's the only way this is going to get fixed, because the corruption at the Board of Elections level, certainly not in every county, it's not what I'm saying, but in many counties, particularly the larger counties, is rampant. And in this recent set of reforms, they have buried it even deeper under state law. So it's going to take a real crime buster to get into that. That's my goal, to recruit a candidate for attorney general committed to the concept that no one, including supervisors of elections, are above the law.
So you mentioned the supervisor of elections races. It's my understanding, I think there's 12 different call them MAGA candidates, right, in different jurisdictions across Florida? Yes.
I'm going to be endorsing multiple candidates. I have already done a video for Chris Gleason. There's a number of other candidates I'm going to be endorsing and trying to help. Look, this is an uphill fight. Let's be very clear. The status quo, the establishment Republicans, they like things just the way they are. But I'm confident that the message of demanding free, fair, honest, transparent elections is going to ring true with the American voters and with the Florida voters. Chris Gleason is a man of uncommon courage and knowledge. He's really perfect for this job. So I remain confident that in the end, through our prayers and our hard work, victory will be ours.
I completely agree. Well, last question before we go. What are your thoughts about the Trump organization? Because we've seen a lot in Florida, in Georgia, in multiple other critical states. Really, no one's focusing on where the election fraud is. They're talking about putting monitors in the poll booths or hiring attorneys or whatever, but actually it's going to happen before we even get to that point with via the mail-in ballots, via the blank ballots, via the machines or whatever. What are your thoughts on that? On Trump dealing with the problem? Yeah.
I think there's more going on than meets the eye. It is true that the Republican National Committee seems to be focused on one element of victory, which is to register and get out the vote of as many Trump supporters as possible. But these other issues, many of them pointed out by Chris Gleason, the need for voter lists. The Florida Republican Assembly has done an excellent job putting together a program that helps identify undeliverable addresses on the voter files, for example. But other questions like the chain of custody on mail-in ballots.
Yeah.
These are the making certain that there can be no cyber manipulation of either the voting machines themselves or tabulating. These are going to have to be dealt with. There's more going on, I think, than meets the eye. But the Republican National Committee, I would agree with you, only appears to be dealing with one element of it, which is the need to find and turn out and as many Trump supporters as possible.
Roger, thanks for your time. Is there anything else you want to get out?
Only that our country's in desperate trouble. I've known Donald Trump for 45 years. He is the only thing that stands between us and chaos. He's a man of an uncommon courage and stamina. He is a fighter. Indeed, he is a warrior. You could see that because after someone tried to shoot and kill him in Butler, Pennsylvania, when he kind of broke free of that scrum of Secret Service agents that were trying to protect him with their bodies to lift his fist, he didn't know if there was an active shooter still on the scene. He didn't know if he was risking his life. That is the Trump I love. That is the Trump I have huge respect for. That is the Trump who will make America great again.
Well, we're all fighting and not giving up. So, Roger, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Todd, great to be